Hey everybody, Timmy Flyersguy here, reminding you to check out my back in the day 100th episode exclusively on the Timmy Flyersguy YouTube channel. The back in the day 100th episode will be premiering, will be on YouTube September 15th at 6 p.m. So make sure you check out Back in the Day 100th episode exclusively on my YouTube channel.
My shine, they think I'm out of my mind. One chance, we own. Take another look, you know that we gone. Came from the ground and we crawling up. You can feel it in your fist when you balling up. The sky turns black, it don't matter. We know the sun is coming up. We were born to run.
Hey everybody, it's me, Timmy Flyersguy, and welcome to this week's edition of Classic Flyers Theater. You guys remember that video I did where I compiled together old school broadcast intros of the Philadelphia Flyers? Well, I've decided to do that again. I decided to do a whole new block of Flyers broadcast intros, old school. I decided to do a whole new block of Flyers, old school TV intros here on this week's episode. A lot of these are from Comcast Sportsnet, a few are from Prism, and a few are from WB17, of course, which is now called My Network Television, but it was called WB17 back in the day. In this video, I compiled together some more old school broadcast intros for the Philadelphia Flyers. So I hope you guys enjoy this week's episode of Classic Flyers Theater. Let's roll the footage.
Not so long ago, the great Gretzky called them a Mickey Mouse team when they were a frustrating 2-8. And a new coach, Tom McVie, and a new winning attitude for the Devils, playing .500 hockey and defeating the likes of Chicago, the Rangers, Minnesota, and tying Buffalo. Now they find themselves just 3 points away from climbing out of the Patrick Division basement. The Flyers are coming off 3 straight 3-3 ties and will be looking for points in the win column when they meet the New Jersey Devils next. Sports presents Philadelphia Flyers hockey. Tonight, live from the Spectrum, it's the New Jersey Devils against the Philadelphia Flyers.
Playing in goal for the New Jersey Devils will be Glenn Chico Resch. The 4.06 goals against average, 5 wins, 12 losses, and 2 ties. In the net for the Flyers, Pelle Lindbergh with a 3.50 goals against average, 11 wins, 5 losses, and 3 ties. Now the voice of the Flyers on Prism, Bob Gallerstein.
Thank you very much, Ed Van Imp. Bobby Clark against Pat Verbeek, Mark Howe the left wing, and Rick McLeish on the right side. Thomas Eriksson on defense with Glenn Cochran. As the Devils pick it up in their own zone, looking to clear. McLeish in there checking Dave Cameron. Out of the zone it goes, and it'll be Glenn Cochran to pick it up. And save. Lindbergh rebound. Slipped aside by Pelly. And that should preserve the shutout. 6 seconds to go, and the Flyers dump it in, so Pelly Lindbergh gets a standing ovation, and this one belongs to the Flyers. Pelly Lindbergh records the first shutout of the year by a Flyer goaltender. And Lindbergh on the season, his 12th win in 20 decisions, and the Flyers with a very solid 5-0 victory over New Jersey, out shooting the Devils 45-29 overall, and in the third period by a count of 16-8. Great performance by Pelly Lindbergh. Right now, let's go down to ringside as Lou Nolan will announce our 3 stars after he takes care of the shots. Our Prism record, by the way, goes up now to 10 wins, 3 losses.
For a franchise steeped in tradition, the Flyers once again have history on their side. Never have they lost a playoff series when leading after 2 games. Never have the Buffalo Sabres come back after trailing 2-0. To prolong their connection to the past, the effort must continue. The stars must continue to shine. The grinders must continue to grind. And the unstoppable must continue to be stopped. Stanley Cup glory is a painful 16-step program. The 7th step awaits tonight. The home where Buffalo roams did prove to be advantageous for the Flyers. Game 1 was complete with unlikely scorers, unusual combatants, and 2 timely goals. This was step 1 toward extinction. Two nights later, the Sabres were sharp, but Philadelphia was sharper. 2 first-period goals would stand up. So did goalie Garth Snow. He was the difference. The Flyers were happy hunters because where Buffalo roams, the orange and black came to play. And 18,000 will make their way to the Core State Center here in South Philadelphia tonight because they are cup crazy. The city of Philadelphia is alive with Flyer talk, and Garth Snow has been a major factor in the Flyers' success here in the playoffs thus far this year. Garth Snow has 7 postseason wins under his belt, and Matthew Barnaby comes to town, public enemy number 1. He is a Sabre with a sharp tongue. A good confrontation here on Core State Center ice tonight. Game 3, Eastern Conference semifinals. It is the Flyers hosting.
Sunday's phenomenal tally was a springboard to an explosive week for Alexander Daig. In fact, his hat trick Saturday propelled the Flyers to their most impressive victory of the season. A team that had been tentative is suddenly beaming with confidence. The offense has come around, and the result is a 4-game unbeaten streak. The goal tonight is to keep that confidence and build on it as the rejuvenated Flyers take on the Leafs next. When the Toronto Maple Leafs and Philadelphia Flyers last played, it was November, and the Leafs stood up to the Flyers. In fact, allowed the Flyers just this 1 goal by Chris Gratton. Well, tonight the teams will meet in Philadelphia at the Core State Center. The Flyers looking for much more offense, as for the second and final time this year, the Leafs and Flyers tangle. A pleasant good evening. I'm Jim Jackson along with Gary Dornhofer. Glad to be along with you. Game 5 of this 6-game homestand for the Philadelphia Flyers. The only visit this season by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Gary, the Flyers are coming off a very impressive victory, the 6-1 demolishing really of the Detroit Red Wings on Saturday afternoon. And of course, you come up with a big win. It's very important to follow up with another good effort.
Well, and I think all the players realize that also so much has been said the Flyers can't beat any of the elite teams. Well, they crushed Detroit, and now they're going to play a team that is under 500, but in a desperate situation to try and make the playoffs.
Everybody in Philadelphia these days is talking about Alexander the Great, otherwise known as Alexander Daig. Of course, his hat trick was the key element of the victory we spoke of over Detroit, and quite frankly, that was just the latest in great games for Alexander Daig. He's really coming along.
Well, there's no doubt that Daig is playing with a lot of confidence, and when you play with confidence, you're having fun on the ice, you're going to spots and you're releasing a shot. You don't realize how difficult a shot that is to put that much on it, but Daig is getting himself in position, and he's got good eye-hand coordination when it comes to deflecting the puck. So I tell you what, there is a huge smile on his face right now the way things are going in for him.
Daig scored 2 of his goals on the power play, a power play which tallied 4 times in all. Suddenly it was clicking. I mean, they were moving the puck. They were doing all the things that they wanted to do all year.
Absolutely, and you know, that's the important ingredient in a power play, is that you get the movement from your defense. The forwards have to get into position, and then when the shots are there, you take them. But watch the Flyers now on the power play. And one thing to look for is getting in front of the net. And right from this position, and stop right there. Look at Alexander Daig. He is right in front, and there is no other defender close to him. So yes, he can deflect that one, and that's the start of his goal onslaught. That was the first one. Now the Flyers again, stop it there on the power play. Look at how the defense are playing ahead of Alexander Daig. Nobody's even trying to push him out of the way, and again, using the deflection to put it in. So it was kind of interesting watching the Detroit Red Wings kill off penalties. They just let Daig stand there and have a great time.
We've said all along, though, with all the penalties being called right now, you have to capitalize with your man advantages, and the Flyers certainly did that on Saturday. The Flyers also got another outstanding effort from their goaltender, Ron Hextall, in that game. He outperformed the guy at the other end, Chris Osgood. Ron Hextall closing in on Bernie Parent as the winningest Flyer goalie of all time. He seems to be getting his game going.
Yeah, he's playing exceptional hockey for the Flyers, and you know, every once in a while, yes, a bad goal will beat him, but it has not hurt him where the Flyers have lost a number of games because of his goaltending. And this homestand, he has been particularly good. In the 4 games, only allowed 8 goals. So when you allow on the average of 2 goals a game, you're getting it done.
Now, the last time that Ron Hextall and Felix Potvin were on the same ice surface in Philadelphia, they met up close and personal as they had quite a tangle. Everybody remembers that last season. But Felix Potvin has been doing a lot of stopping of the puck of late for these Toronto Maple Leafs. In fact, according to his coach, he's the main reason this team has won 3 in a row and 4 of its last 5.
Well, he can get it going, and he can win games by himself, and that's exactly what has been happening with the Maple Leafs. They have been putting some wins together, and it's been the strength of Felix Potvin. And you know, when you are over 6 foot and you stack the pads, you cover up a lot of net, and he has certainly been doing that. The opposition have been out shooting the Leafs, but when you get right down to the nitty-gritty, it's been Felix Potvin that has stole the show.
And while Potvin does steal the show, there is another guy in this Toronto team that you want to keep your eye on tonight. He wears uniform number 13. His name is Matt Sundin. This is a superstar. He's a guy who basically can do it all.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in the unlucky 13. And you talk about size and strength, very difficult to knock off the puck. But his biggest strength is as a playmaker. And once he gets wound up and gets moving down ice, very difficult to stop. And I'll tell you what, he can set up some good plays, and when the opportunity presents itself, he is also a gifted goal scorer. So he certainly is the #1 guy for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
So one team battling for playoff, its livelihood, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Flyers, of course, looking to improve their playoff positioning. Flyers also looking to make it 5 straight without a loss. Should be a good one. Flyers and Leafs from the Core State Center in a moment. Tonight's Flyers Maple Leafs game on Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you by Bud Light. If you want great taste that won't fill you up but never let you down, make it a Bud Light. By the Core State's Flyers MasterCard. By Aetna US Healthcare. You'll feel better with us. by the Discover card, proud partner of Smithsonian's 150th anniversary. And by your local Chevrolet dealers. We'll be back with the opening face-off in the start of tonight's matchup between the Leafs and the Flyers after these messages. It has been a season of challenges for the Philadelphia Flyers. They overcame them to reach the postseason. But the playoffs bring even more intense tests of a team's mettle. The Flyers have arrived at the crossroads. Alexander Ovechkin and his Capitals have found their stride. They have won 2 in a row to stave off elimination. And now it's Flyers fans who are fearing the worst. What remains for the Flyers? One game to prove to everyone that they have plenty of bite left. One game to show that they can give their best performance when it is absolutely necessary. One game to save their season. And that one game is Game 7 versus the Caps next.
Fans in the nation's capital ready themselves for one of the best scenarios in all of sport. Game 7. It could be defining, memorable, exhilarating, and yes, nerve-wracking. And tonight it's Game 7 of the Eastern Conference quarterfinals between the Flyers and the Capitals.
The season began with high hopes and expectations for the Philadelphia Flyers, and they haven't disappointed. In the beginning, the story was John LeClair and his Midas scoring touch as the Flyers got out of the gate. Into November, the Flyers began to pick up steam, and helping along the way was stellar goaltending from the veteran, Ron Hextall. The Flyers climbed above 500, never to look back. In December, youngsters began to emerge as Yanni Niinema played more and more of a role in the Flyers' surge. Veteran Dale Howardchuk also added offensive spark. As the new year rang in, the team hit its peak, with Eric Lindros spearheading a 17-game unbeaten streak, including an undefeated West Coast swing. And then Paul Coffey was added to the mix, and the Flyers have become one of the more explosive offensive teams in the National Hockey League. Another page is turned, the Flyers hoping to continue their role after the All-Star break. The next challenge is in Detroit, coming up next. Detroit, they call it the Motor City. Well, one of the two teams playing in tonight's hockey game is motoring. That, of course, the Philadelphia Flyers, losers of just 1 of their last 21. The Red Wings, on the other hand, have not won in 7 of their last 8. Pleasant good evening. I'm Jim Jackson right now.
And it's been a total team concept. The checkers are checking. The goal scorers are scoring goals. The penalty killers are doing an outstanding job, and let's not forget the goaltending. And when you put all that together, that's why the Flyers are on the top spot.
Well, beware of those Penguins. They're coming on fast. But one of the reasons for the Flyers' success of late, of course, has been Paul Coffey. He's been dynamic, really adding to the offense for the Philadelphia Flyers. He continues to set and reach milestones as well. Last night, moving into second place all-time in assists.
He certainly is an exciting player to watch, and you know, you always wonder, how is his game defensively? Well, in the 7 games as he played with the Philadelphia Flyers, he's a +9. He contributes in the passing and setting up players offensively, but he is doing the job behind the blue line.
And certainly he's a fortunate guy, too. He joined this team right at the right time. Hartford was going downhill. The Flyers obviously on this great streak of theirs where they've only lost the one time since late November, as we mentioned. And Gary, we've seen a lot of things in this stretch. Good offense, good defense, just about everything but a good power play.
Everything is going the way Terry wants it to, and that's the power play, something they're going to work on. But, you know, it's been a balanced attack. Teams have not been able to shut down the Flyers' offensive thrust. You know, they shut down one line, another line comes to the forefront, and that's the way it should be.
You really have to look long and hard to find a Flyers player who wasn't real happy with his production in the first half of the season. But one of those players is Michael Renberg. Renberg getting a lot of shots early on, not a lot of goals, but he's picking up the pace now.
Well, for Michael, you know, when he scores the goals, you can see the excitement in his face. But in the last game on a setup from Eric Lindros, we saw a vintage Renberg. It hits his stick, it's on the net, getting it by the goaltender before he really establishes his position. We'd like to see more of that for Michael Renberg.
Well, for the Red Wings, the opposition tonight, things are not going that well. They're flu-ridden, some guys out. Sergei Fedorov is injured, and the team, as we mentioned before, has only won one in their last 8 games. And because of all that, they've dropped a little bit in the Western Conference standings, although they're still right there.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Detroit Red Wings won 62 games last year, and now they're only at 21 wins. But, you know, this is something that Scotty Bowman touched on. We'll get everything together. The main guy, though, is Steve Yzerman. He can put the puck in the net. He's had a history of winning big games for the Detroit Red Wings, and you have to pay special attention to him. But even Stevie Yzerman right now is in a struggling mode. Only 3 goals in his last 20 games.
That's been a struggle for the Red Wings in scoring, and also defensively of late. They've not been as tough as they had been in times before that. The Flyers haven't won here in Detroit in the 90s. They'll try to rectify that situation coming up in a moment. Tonight, the Philadelphia Flyers learned Friday night in Miami that keeping their cool can pay big dividends. Restraint helped the Flyers to a resounding victory over the Florida Panthers. A 3-goal barrage in the third period carried Philadelphia to a 5-2 decision in the last slap over the preoccupied Panthers. Tonight, another challenge for the Flyers. The Tampa Bay club, sure to be ornery over a 14-game winless streak, invades the Core State Center. There's plenty of history between these two clubs. Will it be restraint, or will the gloves come off? More often than not, a great rivalry is produced through playoff confrontations. With the Flyers and Senators, meetings in consecutive postseasons have done just that. The animosity is carried over into this year's regular season series. A goalie duel in Ottawa last week only added to that intensity. As is so often the case for these two teams, the game was a tight, tense affair. Martin Havlat's wicked high stick became another blow that increases the dislike between the clubs. Tonight, an Eastern Conference showdown between two established rivals. Flyers Sens next. Such a peaceful setting on the Schuylkill River. It might not be quite as peaceful inside the Wachovia Center tonight, though, as an Eastern Conference showdown. First place takes place between the Flyers and the Senators. And a pleasant good evening. Welcome to Flyers Hockey on Comcast Sportsnet. I'm Jim Jackson. Well, the Flyers and Senators, of course, they've met in back-to-back seasons now in the playoffs. Obviously, they're two of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and the numbers bear that out this year. A huge hockey game right here, as the Flyers are in a 3-way tie for the top spot in the East heading into tonight's action. The Senators just 2 points back, and you see it is a complete logjam at the top of the Eastern Conference. So all of these games are very important, and of course, we'll keep an eye on that Tampa Bay, New Jersey game for you as well. We'll
Gary Dornhofer, you're talking about a lot of trades happening, affecting Eastern Conference teams, and these teams, of course, made their trades a little earlier than some of the other clubs. Peter Bondra and Alexei Zhamnov arrived, and both have paid dividends instantly.
Yeah, have they ever? And for the Flyers, it was a trade of necessity. You know, you lose Roenick and Primo, you need another center iceman. That's when Bob Clark got Zhamnov. For the Ottawa Senators, Peter Bondra was just another piece of the puzzle. You know, he's a gifted scorer, and just add more talent to already talented lineup. But those are the numbers since they joined their teams in the trades. For Peter Bondra, exciting player to watch, tremendous speed, quick release. You'll see him playing a lot on the power play, and when he drives that puck from the point position, it can be devastating at times. Well, if you've never seen Zhamnov participate, boy, what a find he is. I mean, this guy does it all because he has such great vision in the offensive zone. He and Amani had played together before, and you can see that with Zhamnov in the lineup, you see a different Amani also.
Very interesting to see the similarities there. Acquired players, both playing well for their new teams. But Steve, Coach, you look at the Flyers and Senators, and there's a lot of similarities in the groups. And certainly, they both have defensemen who log a lot of ice time and can play both ends of the ice in Kim Janssen and Wade Redden.
Well, they have a lot in common because they do lead their teams in individual ice time, both Wade Redden and Kim Janssen. They also lead their teams as far as defensive scoring is concerned, and they both have a lot of the same characteristics as players. Look at the numbers as far as the ice time is concerned. Oh, yeah, they're over the boards an awful lot, and both have a lot of points that they're contributing to their individual teams. And right at the bottom, as I've already mentioned, they lead their individual teams in defensive scoring. Redden is a key on the power play. He's got 10 power play goals to lead all defensemen, actually tied for all defensemen in the National Hockey League. He's got 14 goals in the season, which is third among defensemen in the National Hockey League. Kim Janssen leads the Philadelphia Flyers in power play assists, so you know they love to be able to get the puck back to him. Also, he leads his team in scoring. Great skating, great shooting. Both these players have all the characteristics that make for what they are providing, and that's offensive ability as well as taking care of things in their own zone.
As if there aren't enough storylines in this game, tonight marks the 1,000th game of Tony Amani's NHL career. Tonight's Flyers Senators game is brought to you by Bud Light, the proud sponsor of the NHL. By Wachovia, together we can achieve uncommon things. By Pico, no doubt about it. By Toyota, with 17 models to choose from, which Toyota is perfect for you? Toyota, get the feeling. And by Southwest Airlines, non-stop service to 59 destinations all across the country. There's an obvious history when it comes to the stick work of Martin Havlat against the Flyers. His latest incident against Mark Recchi has the Flyers in an angry mood. Donald Brashear was not in the lineup last week due to injury, but he is tonight. Will there be an opportunity for redemption? We'll find out next.
more. Back to Niedema. Niedema fired. Score! Niedema fired. Leclerc was in front. Stratton played it to Leclerc. Turns and fires and scores! The Midas touch of John Leclerc, his second of the night.
As he continues to pour pucks into the net, it is becoming quite clear that John Leclerc has climbed to elite status among NHL players. He is at his explosive best when he goes against his former team, the Montreal Canadiens, to the tune of 17 goals and 3 hat-tricks in 12 games. Leclerc and the Flyers visit the Canadiens coming up next.